Welcome to my review of ODiver for the PC. And this was a free shooter that I downloaded. It took me around 3 hours and 31 minutes to beat. And it's a pretty challenging game. It has infinite continues. But no saves as far as I could tell. I don't think the game has any saves, so I basically just left it on for a day or two. As I was probably playing some other games at the time and I didn't beat it all in one sitting. But it was pretty challenging. Not super hard, but it's a good challenge. You definitely have to learn the stages, but when you do lose a continue, which is basically whenever you lose I think you may only have one life. So if you lose that life, then you'll start at the beginning of the stage, and the stages can be pretty long. So you definitely got to get good at the game, but it is a unique game. It shifts perspectives, it goes from overhead style to kind of a horizontal side-scrolling shooter, and multiple angles, as you'll see from the footage. You have your sword attack. The best thing about your sword attack is to deflect bullets, which is something that's been done before in shooters, but it works great here. You can really clear out bullets, but you do have to wait for it to charge back up again. It does charge up fast, but not fast enough to where you can exploit it by mashing the sword button. There is a little bit of a break in between, so you actually do have to learn how to play the game, and you can't just sit there and mash. So you have to have, good timing with it. You can't be super sloppy. You also have a forked shot, as you see here, and then you have another shot that's more of a centered shot, which is stronger. It's a middle shot. You see where that gap is? In a forked shot, the middle shot will just shoot down the middle, and that's a stronger shot. But the forked shot is good because, see here, you see how it allows me to stay out of the range of the enemy's fire and shoot them from either the bottom a little bit or up top without being directly in front of them. So that's something you're going to want to use. And you're constantly going to switch between these three attacks. The sword, which is mainly going to be used for blocking bullets and shit like that, but if you use the sword skillfully, you can actually do really heavy damage to enemies by attacking with the sword too. It's just more dangerous since it's a close range attack. But sometimes it is the best thing to do, aside from just using it to destroy bullets. Now, I think certain attacks you may not be able to destroy with the sword. I have not played this in a while, so I don't remember the exact details of that aspect of the game, but I remember most of the game. So I figured it'd be a good time to do a review on it. But yeah, you're pretty much managing those three different types of shots, and aside from that, you're just controlling your vehicle. Most of the time... Oh yeah, another thing you can do is you can change directions. You can basically face backwards or face forwards. So if you want to turn around and shoot this guy in the ass, you can do that. This is a boss fight, obviously. But it depends, though. It's very dependent on the game because there's sections where you cannot turn around. So you'll know when you try to do it and it doesn't work. So you'll learn that way. But it's not always clear when you can and cannot do it. But you'll know on the first time when it doesn't work, then you'll figure it out. But that can be maybe a little bit irritating because, you expect the controls to work a certain way, but it's not too jarring. So now you see more of an overhead shooter style here. But it does switch perspectives a lot. There's even a gravity sequence where you can't float freely. You got to kind of jump, but you can jump really high, but you can only jump and shoot. So they do switch up the gameplay in some interesting ways. You can see how useful that sword is for clearing out the bullets. And this was one of the best of the free shooters that I downloaded. I downloaded maybe about 70 or 80 free shooters off of a huge list for PC. And I played through a good chunk of them. Actually, I probably tried about 180 of them. But I beat maybe 70 or 80 of them. So I was basically just looking for reasonable kills. I wasn't playing through the more extreme games, but this one was a nice challenge. I pretty much did that for a month while I was cruising through the list, and I wanted to try to bang out as many kills as I could, just going through casually, without really grinding any of them, But this was a nice one. You also have a shield, which basically means it's just your health bar. It means you can take a few hits before you got to start over. Since you don't have any lives, it's nice that you can actually take a few hits. And I think you can take a decent amount of hits. You see each notch on that shield, I believe, is a single hit you can take. I don't remember if certain attacks will take more damage, will cause you to take more damage, than others. I don't remember the specifics of it. Maybe because my health went down pretty low there, but I'm not sure. I do know that you can generally, I don't think there's anything that kills you in one hit, unless, of course, your health is already low. So this is the stage I mentioned where, you're grounded in this stage, or this section at least. I don't know if it's the whole stage, but see, you can jump really high. But it does change the gameplay a bit, and it's more of a horizontal shooter at this point. But it's not your typical shooter. It's almost more like Ninja Spirit, which is almost like a shooter, even though it's more like a it looks like a side-scrolling like normal action game. But Ninja Spirit I always thought of almost as a shooter because you jump so high, and this plays a little bit like that. Irem was, of course, known for their shooters like R-Type. So it makes sense that Ninja Spirit had, those mechanics, even though it was a side-scrolling ninja game. So this is a boss fight. The bosses are pretty unique. Like there's smaller, almost humanoid-sized bosses like this, and then you have massive bosses that are huge, and you have to take off multiple body parts, which you will see. The last boss is one of those types of bosses. And of course, there are certain exploits. I don't remember if I did a tutorial on this one. I do have a full edited playthrough, but I don't remember if I did a tutorial. I think I may have. But I will link either my tutorial or my edited playthrough in the description if you want to check that out. I found a lot of exploits in this game as far as positioning tricks, safe spots, and things like that. So if you are looking to beat this, it can make it easier. But yeah, this wouldn't have been a bad game to pick up for $5 if it was on the Steam list. Even for $10, this would be solid. Now, it's not one that I would really want to pay like $20 or something like that, just because I'd be done with it in a few hours, and it's not good enough that I would want to replay it. There's other shooters that I would much rather try to replay and master. This one's really not that difficult either, to where I would want to spend a massive amount of time to try to do it without getting hit or anything like that. But yeah, there are some pretty safe spots here during this boss fight, as you can see, where you can kind of just take your time, and you can take those turrets out from like right to left kind of slowly, and it's pretty easy if you do it safe like that. But I edited that down heavily because it was really fucking repetitive in the actual playthrough. It's a real drawn out sequence. I did it real fucking slow. I think I was down to my last piece of health, so I was playing it super fucking careful. Not too enjoyable to watch, but you get the idea. So this is one of maybe the final boss, or close to it. This is one of the later bosses near the end of the game. I think this guy may show up more than once, if I remember right. But this is a cool fight because in this fight it changes the mechanics quite a bit. And there's a few fights like this that use this circle rotating mechanic, which reminds me a bit of. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Gyrus, a little bit. The old arcade game that was ported to the NES and other consoles. But it reminds me a little bit of the Gyrus style, where you move around a circle and rotate around the boss. So it's cool that there is a nice variety in the way the game plays. The gameplay changes quite a bit. So here you got to get used to the circle moving mechanic where you're kind of strafing around shit. So you got to get used to that for this fight. And you just take out the body parts. And once you understand how it works, it's really not too difficult. As with most of this game, really nothing too difficult when you have an understanding of some of the patterns and where to position yourself. It's definitely not one of those brutal types of shooters. But it's cool. I liked how you had to destroy multiple parts of the boss before you take it down. And some of these fights are pretty long, where you go through multiple phases. And it's definitely well done. You also got to kind of get used to the way these shots curve in this circular rotation. They curve in a unique way for these sequences, which is different than the way they curve when you play in the other stages. So it's a little bit something different to get used to, but you got to try to manage that while you're dodging everything. Now you're taking out the head, as you can see. And I think I showed most or all of this fight because this was a cool fight. It may even be the last fucking boss. I don't even remember. I know this was near the end of the game. But this was one of the cooler parts of the game. And the game overall is quite well designed. I don't remember it having any kind of memorable music or anything like that. I do believe that it did have music, but I don't even remember. But the gameplay I remember. This is one of the trickier bosses. He has quite a few attacks that you have to learn. There's a lot of patterns to get down that can be tricky. So this can be one of the tougher fights. The forked shot I used a lot because, it gives you a nice range on both sides of your ship. Even though you don't get any bullets down the middle of your ship, the forked is pretty good. But see, now I want to do more damage, so now you see me using the straight shot. I think there's some kind of sword attack that's like a straight thrust, too, that you can use, if I remember right, but I think I may have been using that a little bit. Now you see the straight middle shot. That's more powerful. So when you want to just do straight out damage, that's one of your best options. And the sword, I think, is definitely stronger than the spread shot as well. But I'm not sure what the strongest attack is. I don't know if mashing the sword is your strongest attack. I don't really remember. But it does do good damage. I know it's good to get up close and use a sword sometimes. I think the sword will destroy most types of projectiles, but I don't know about these big lasers. Again, I'm a little hazy on this game since I beat this probably many months ago now. But I remember this was one of the harder fights. Even though you can take a good amount of hits, you get to this guy after doing all that other shit. You have to do well on that large, that long robot fight without really getting hit or taking too much damage. You don't want to take too much damage on that robot fight with all those phases because you want to have as much health as possible for this fight. I'm not sure if the game gives you any health back either between phases. I don't really remember getting health back, but I think maybe a few times I saw that my health was like slightly higher. So there may be ways to earn it back. I think this was the last boss. I think that might have been, back to back. Like you fight the large boss and then you got to finish off this fight. And this is the final boss to take out. But quite a good game. For me, I'd give this game a 7 out of 10. I think it's a good game. It's not anything that stands out to the point where I would say that it was a great game or anything like that. It doesn't stand out on that level for me, where it's like super engaging and exciting. But it's just a good, solid game. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching.